So that's us squared. And basically, we're going to kind of dive into our little first activity, which is actually just a little bit of fun and hopefully just a little bit of a way for us to kind of get people's ideas for what they want to see coming out from the group across the year. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go onto Mentimeter. So if you have a phone with you, feel free to go to menti.com, and then you'll be just asked to type in the code 3903773.
Just go that again, Mark, please. It was
Yes.
39.
So 3903773.
Perfect. I've just posted that in the chat, guys, for if anyone needs to pick that up.
Great. Cheers, Luke. And we'll see that. Can't quite see how many it was on there. Is everybody joined in that wants to join in? Yeah. Okay. So we've got one there. There you go.
We're just going to use this, guys. We're just hoping to get a bit of feedback about like what made you sort of attend the groups and some ideas for future sessions, really. We put quite a bit of time and effort into this, but sometimes it's quite difficult to get feedback from you guys attending it. So just be honest with us. It's really used to help improve the events. And there's only 3 questions. Don't worry. It's not
yeah. Don't worry. It's not like a massive like Google Forms survey. And we'll try to keep these questions as light touch as possible, but it's just trying to help us gear up kind of and put together sessions that you guys want to see from the group in the future. So the first question is, why did you come to the session? You know, if you've been to multiple of our sessions, you know, what reasons would you say that you have come to these sessions for? You know, to present. There you go.
Always welcome, presenters.
Absolutely. You know, if there's, you know, there you go. Learn more about ecosystem and network.
Good.
That's great. Okay. New speakers and topics, and to meet new people, and want to be part of Salesforce community, and to see lovely UK faces. There you go. See 100 Days of Trailhead on Twitter and think the idea is interesting. Would like to hear more about it.
Good.
Well,
you're in the right place.
You're in the right session for that. Okay. New to Salesforce, love to know more about the ecosystem, wider my network. Fantastic. And we've got 8 responses there. So I think that's probably everybody contributed. So we're going to move on to the next question.
Good to see we're all here for the same reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And which is, what type of content would you like to be covered in our user group sessions? So when we talk about content, it could be things that do you want to hear stories from other Salesforce users in the local area, talk about how they use it? Do you want to hear presentations similar to like what we've had in the past with like Ricky Winch has come in and did one on Tableau? Like tonight we've got one on 100 Days of Trailhead. What kind of stuff would you like to see in these sessions? I'll give that kind of start for stuff to start coming in. Go hear about how others use the system. Great. Okay.
Yeah, same here. I think that's interesting, particularly from you guys attending. It's always good to know like where you're working, how you're using the system, which clouds are you using, you know, cool things that you're doing with the system, cool things you'd like to be doing. Same for us as well, or that's the same for me.
Yeah. Okay. See new product demos,
okay.
Similar to Tableau. Does it? All based on knowledge and how they progress within. Okay.
That's good. And we've thought about some sessions, Mark, like that, haven't we? We've talked about some of the sort of the certification or advancement or development route, you know, trying to bring a mixture of, you know, product and case study and employability, some different topics we've discussed this year.
We have, yeah, absolutely. Seeing some famous Salesforce people and how they got to their position. Great. And we might be touching on that one a little bit later on. So we've got some interesting news coming up on that. Best practices for system setup or for use of specific products.
Nice.
Great. Learn about the clouds I don't use every day.
Good.
Fantastic. And just give a couple more cents if any more come in. Okay. Learn more about the employment ecosystem.
Yeah. Great. Seems to be doing Gemma.
Yeah, I think that's probably about it. So let's move over to the last question, which is, what products would you like to be covered in? I know I haven't actually changed the word tonight, but what products would you like to be covered in our sessions going forward?
Salesforce products. So we saw Tableau before.
Absolutely.
Reference to different clouds, I guess, sales and service and marketing.
Yeah.
Salesforce specific products you'd like us to either get a speaker around or a dive in case study.
Marketing cloud. Okay. Could also be something like, say, like Salesforce Anywhere, for example, could be something. If like,
I think we've got some non-profit users.
Yeah.
Must be on the call as well.
So e-commerce.
Pardo, okay.
Okay, Pardo. What seems to be hot and happening in the Salesforce market in the Northeast?
Non-profit, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, we've got Tableau and Heroku in there as well. Okay.
Good, and thanks for that, because that's really helpful for us in planning and shaping sessions.
Great, and then last one, all clouds and other softwares that could be integrated into Salesforce.
Yeah, there's a lot of external integrations these days, isn't there? Google and AWS, and that would be a good session on external integrations.
Great. So I think that's probably it in terms of that by looks of it. So I'm going to change back over to my PowerPoint slides. We'll go onto there. Okay. So just say thank you everyone for taking part in that. We'll use all of that stuff you fed back through to basically guide us into what kind of stuff we put together, and the people that we actually reach out to be guest speakers as well. So we'll look at I will take that away. We'll talk about that following this meeting, and then kind of go through how we can look to deliver that. But tonight, just want to pass over to our guest speakers. We have Jessica Murphy and Rachel Watson, who are co-founders of 100 Days of Trailhead, and it's really great to have them on board. Both are 4-time Salesforce MVPs. Both are DEI speakers. Jessica is a career coach, and Rachel is a program creator and leader. And it's really great to have both Jessica and Rachel here. Just kind of before I pass over them, just to kind of really sell the 100 Days of Trailhead program just a little bit. I'm taking part in it for the first time this year, and I have found it to be a real benefit in terms of actually helping me prioritize spending like an hour a day learning, and it's just a really good thing to be involved in. So if you're someone who is at any stage really of your development within Salesforce, if you don't really spend that time learning, let me just encourage you very quickly to look into doing that. But I don't want to take up Jessica and Rachel's thunder, so I'll pass over to them, and they can tell us a little bit more about 100 Days of Trailhead and share their presentation for this evening. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass over to Jessica and Rachel.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
It's a real honor to be here with y'all. And yes, that is a U.S. Southern term. And just for the sake of argument, all y'all is a proper plural of y'all. And I will, I'm just messing with you guys.
Some linguist actually said that.
I know.
Y'all is actually, or y'all is actually the best way to pluralize you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. But enough about American to UK English. This is just an introductory to some of the things that we're involved in. And Jessica is going to tell us a little bit about who we are and about our journey. And we're going to talk a little bit today about the whole path of learning. And we're going to talk about organizational learning and individual learning.
Okay, so just to start out, my name is Jessica Murphy. I am the co-founder of 100 Days of Trailhead, co-leader of Women in Tech Developers, co-founder of Phoenix Salesforce Saturday, and co-founder of a new consultancy. I just started a new consultancy called East First Consulting. And this is where you can contact me. And I'm pretty much so out there on Twitter and all the things. So, feel free.
And I'm Rachel Watson. I work with Accenture, and there's various different ways to contact me here on this page. I co-founded with Jessica Phoenix Salesforce Saturday. We're the second in the world. A lot of people don't know that. And Women in Tech Developers, otherwise known as WIT Devs, and then 100 Days of Trailhead.
So let me tell you a little bit about our path and how we got here. Okay, so our story kind of begins before 2015. Before 2015, Rachel and I were both sign language interpreters. And I loved being an interpreter. What about you? It was a wonderful experience. It was a lot of fun. But we moved across the country. We moved from Georgia to Phoenix, Atlanta, Georgia to Phoenix, Arizona. And when we moved, we found that we needed to do something different. So I started teaching and she started working in educational sales. And basically, I got a master's degree because I wanted to take being a sign language interpreter to the next level and work in an office of disability services. And Rachel just wanted to change. So we found out about tech right after I graduated from my master's degree in education. We found out about tech, and then we later we joined several organizations, one of which was Girl Develop It. We joined Girl Develop It, and we found out about Salesforce and went, wow, this is interesting. So fast forward, we had been in Salesforce for about 2 weeks, and we joined our first trigger workshop. True story, we really did this. Probably not the smartest thing we'd ever done, but we did it nonetheless. We went to our first trigger workshop with David Liu. And then shortly thereafter, with another founder, we started Phoenix Salesforce Saturday. And that was in 2015. In 2016, we started Women in Tech Developers, known as WIT Dev, and we landed our first Salesforce roles. In 2017, we both transitioned into consulting, her for a large consultancy and me for a small one. 2018, we were nominated as Salesforce MVPs, and we conceptualized and started the creation of 100 Days of Trailhead, which began as 100 Days of Code with WIT Devs. Mm-hmm. And there's a funny story behind that. It was 2017. It was like I was sick with the flu, and basically what happened is that I woke up and I said, we're going to do 100 Days of Code with WIT Devs, and Rachel was like, really? So what I did, so basically after I was like, we're doing this, she was like, why don't you write down everything that you've thought of and then just, go back to sleep. So what I did was I wrote down everything I was thinking about 100 Days of Code with WIT Devs, and then I promptly tweeted it because, Salesforce, Ohana, that's how we do. So I tweeted it and everybody found out about it. And then we started in 2018. So in 2018, we officially did 100 Days of Trailhead. In 2019, 100 Days of Trailhead grew worldwide, and in 2020, it grew further. Every year we've had different ways that we've kind of done it and brought in different groups, and it's just been a lot of fun. So in 2020 to 2021, we are now 4 times MVPs and also 13 times certified, both of us. So that's our story.
All right, so like I said, we're going to talk about developing a culture of learning. And so when you think about a culture of learning, why is it important to continue to learn? Well, firstly, if you're part of an organization or you're a leader of an organization, it's always important for the people within your organization to develop new skills so your company can offer more offerings and scale, et cetera, et cetera. As an individual, in order to make sure that you're competitive and you're reaching your full potential and not leaving stuff on the table, then it's really important to develop this habit of continuous learning. So I just spoke about habit. Habit building is difficult. I mean, how many times have you tried to break a habit? How many times have you tried to develop a new habit and break some old ones, or just develop a brand new one, trying to take on something new? That is challenging. So we're going to give you some tips about how to develop those habits, how to set goals. And that brings me to the next point here, goal setting. So in a process of learning, you have to have milestones along the way. So set your goals, figure out how you're going to reach those goals, and then, excuse me, once you have achieved them, it's very important to stop and celebrate those achievements. It's a natural human nature. You go, okay, I'm cleared this goal. Now I'm just going to continue on for the next one, because we're so anxious and so ready to clear the very next one, and then the next one. And it's a ladder to what we perceive as success. But each one of these pieces is actual success. So you need to pause. Make sure that you pause and celebrate your accomplishments, share your accomplishments, cheer others on. So important.
Okay.
So we're going to talk first about organizational learning, and then we'll go on to individual learning here in a bit.
Okay, I jumped the gun a bit, but we're going to start with organizational learning for all of you who are leaders and future leaders. That means all of you, right? So we're going to start talking about organizational learning. So the first aspect of organizational learning is that you want the importance of education to be communicated from the top down, from leadership to all departments, from leadership to your membership. And they need to know that the idea of education and education itself is value. Okay, so there's this principle when you're talking about leadership, that a leader needs to be able to stand up and look around the corner and say, what's coming next? And so the most innovative organizations understand this. And not only do they understand this, they begin educating people in that direction. So, is that blockchain? Is that LWC? Point your rudder in that direction. In fact, you can make it so important that you can make it a part of your organization's vision. And I even say this for smaller organizations, even if this is even in user groups, because Women in Tech Developers is a user group, a Salesforce user group. So what is your vision for your organization? And furthermore, make the expectation of education important to that vision. And lastly, make education the rudder that dictates the direction of your organization, so that, again, those leaders can look around the corner, educate their people, say what's next, and the people understand what's next and educate them in that manner. So I'm going to talk about an educational principle called the locus of control. The locus of control is the extent to which a person feels that they influence the events of their life. All right, so there are 2 types of locus of control. One is, or loci of control, I suppose. One is an internal locus of control. And that means that the person attributes their success to their own efforts and abilities. Now, The second is the external locus of control. And that means that the person attributes their success to luck or fate. In an organization, the best and top way of looking at this is that the person has an internal locus of control, meaning that they are motivated to accomplish their goals because they know that it will benefit them and it will ultimately benefit the organization. However, an external locus of control like gamification can make what you're trying to accomplish fun. And so that's why we bring an external locus of control in addition to encouraging an internal locus of control by saying, hey, you can absolutely focus on your education for these first 3 months of the year because you just focused on everybody else during the Christmas holiday. And the external part is, by the way, we have prizes, but it really is to encourage the internal locus of control.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so I have a master's degree in education. I guess I didn't say that in the beginning. I have a master's degree in education, and it's in adult education and learning. And so I'm going to talk about a few principles of learning. Well, actually, more specifically, one principle here. So there are lots of principles of learning, and there are some that are specific to adults. But the principle of learning I'm going to focus on right now is the fact that adults want to use what they learn almost immediately. And that's one of the biggest principles. And why not? Because we have busy lives as adults. And if you don't use it, you will lose it. So it's not just for the person to learn, but for them to use it. And so when a person learns something and can immediately use it, it can benefit an organization on so many levels. Of course, it benefits them in their career, but for your organization, that can lead to innovation, inventions, new ideas, new direction, seeing market and industry gaps, and so many amazing things. And there's this really interesting thing that I've noticed as the leader of WIT Devs, as a person on the board of RAD, and as a co-founder of 100 Days of Trailhead. What I've heard from men who are developers is usually something along these lines. Well, I saw this gap in my organization, or we needed a developer, so I learned to code. And the company immediately used them. But there's really something interesting that's happening with women, because especially if they're going to RAD and these other organizations, they're learning to code, but that skill is not necessarily being utilized. So the question is why? That person's motivation should not just be utilized, but celebrated. The question is why. So that's one principle of adult education and training that we should consider. And another thing we should consider is that people learn differently. So there are a few theories on this. The basic 3 ways that people learn are visually, auditorially, and kinesthetically. And what that means is by seeing, by hearing, and by doing. Now, it just depends on what theory you read. There could be many, many more. So what you want to do in a learning organization is make sure that your information appeals to at least these top 3 learning styles. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about release notes. Release notes are great for someone who is a visual learner, but everybody else is kind of left in the dark, right? Like, what about the auditory learners? What about the kinesthetic learners? So what can you do in your organization when Salesforce comes out with release notes and everybody needs to know what's in there so that, their org doesn't break or their client's org doesn't break? How can you bring that to your organization? So make sure that you use at least those 3, no matter what you're doing in your organization, if you want to have a very, very effective training and learning organization. So I'm going to come to this idea of certifications because I just think that certifications are useful. They are, but true or false? And I want you to put this in chat. Certifications show my workforce that I know what I'm doing.
All right, so we're going to have to
look and see.
We're going to have to look at the
true or false.
The Zoom here.
Are we sharing?
Yeah.
I can monitor the chat for you guys. I haven't seen any.
Please, that's awesome.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, right, no problem. So, okay, true or false?
True or
True with a
false?
question mark from Claire.
Certifications show that my workplace, that I know what I'm doing.
Oh, see, I'm on the fence as well. I'm true question mark.
Exactly. We all are. And this is why, because we have all come to believe certifications are the way, and certifications are amazing, especially when you are studying and you're getting to know this particular product, and you're wanting to show that you know this product. But I would also say, consider that just because somebody passes, it doesn't mean that they know how to apply the knowledge. There are people like me that are really great at taking tests, right? So, so certifications are not the only way, especially if you're trying to create an educational focused organization. So let's go for the next question, true or false? Certification failure means the person who failed doesn't know what they're doing. True or false?
So what are we getting?
Definitely false for this one. Well,
Yes.
we've got 3 falses and mostly false. So out of 4 responses, 3 definite false. Well,
Right.
Okay.
false, 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 false.
Okay. And I love that you guys said false,
Yeah.
because this is the thing. We don't know why the person didn't pass the exam. There are a lot of reasons. People have test anxiety. People might have had a bad day. And I think that sometimes people know the material without passing the certification. I'm not saying certifications aren't important, but I'm saying that we have put so much emphasis on certification that we really, really need to maybe step back and go, how well do you know the things to actually do the job? That's my perspective on this. So wonderful. Thank you for participating in that. All right.
Absolutely. I just want to tag on. I mean, I have test anxiety, and I make that abundantly clear. In fact, on the 100 Days of Trailhead YouTube channel, I have a video on test anxiety, because I can know something and sometimes I'll go into an exam and I literally freeze and I blank out. And when I was in school, I had teachers say, Rachel, in class, you were the one that knew all the answers. What happened? And my question, when the question came to me, I was like, I don't know. And so that can be really frustrating. And people have all different kinds of reasons that they fail and fail exams. And then I think the culture around failure really, really, we need to change, because people think of a failed exam as I have failed. Mm-hmm. And they're letting someone down, including themselves. And we really, nobody succeeds without having failures along the way. For example, the most basic type of success and failure is learning how to crawl and learning how to walk. So how many babies do you know get up and just start running and they don't ever fall? It doesn't happen. So it's a natural progression. So I just wanted to add that in there because it is so important. And I had somebody DM me actually earlier today and say, I'm failing 100 Days of Trailhead. And I said, no, you are not failing.
Nope.
So that, I think that's very, very important.
What do you say? You're not failing.
You're iterating to success.
Iterating to success. We really have made hashtag iterating to success. And so much so that I actually I have actually put it out there. I failed an exam, and it's just part of the learning process. So, all right.
Me too.
Yes, absolutely. I'd happily tell people. And then the concept of explaining versus teaching. All right, so we all have this idea that we know how to teach because we went to school and watched our teachers, but we don't always take into consideration all that the person did to get all of those degrees, and all the things that they did to make the information accessible and on the student's level. So since this is true, some people think that they can get, especially when they're training people in organizations, they think they can get in front of the classroom and just explain it. And while that works for some, especially maybe the auditory learners, it doesn't work for everyone. So, if you want to be more effective, definitely learn more about the different theories of learning and education. Like, for example, in the educational world, there's an equivalent to waterfall versus agile. And if you need further help, contact an educational consultant. That's part of what my consultancy does, or a qualified trainer. And that, like I said, that's what I do. Is one of the things I do at East First Consulting. And so Rachel and I created 3 organizations that have been made into learning and educationally focused organizations. And so I'm going to turn it over to her.
All right.
I almost made it to the end.
I think it's natural sometimes to get tongue-tied. So we have created continuous learning in WIT devs, women in tech developers. By the way, if you don't know about us, we're a developer group focused on women developers, and we're the only in the world for the Salesforce Trailblazer groups. Now, we are listed under the equality groups, so that's a bit different. Also, we are listed under virtual groups after you get into the equality groups.
But we always welcome our allies. So
Absolutely.
Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome.
Come on. All right. So women in tech, let me start with Phoenix Salesforce Saturday, because that's where we started.
Yes.
So when we got started learning Salesforce and entering the ecosystem, we immediately started giving back by starting Salesforce Saturday. Someone told us that, listen, you don't have to know everything. That's what the community is for. And, you can do this. And so we're like, okay. So we wanted to create a space, much like Stephanie Herrera did, to just create a space so people could come and learn together. And people are on different paths. Some people are beginners, some people are intermediate, some people are advanced. But the cool thing is we come and we focus on Trailhead or certifications, and we're studying. So if we get stuck on a concept, we can pitch it out to the entire group and say, hey, I'm stuck on this Trailhead. Anybody, has anybody accomplished this Trailhead? Does anybody know about this topic that they might be able to help me work through what I've been grinding on for a few days or, for an inordinate amount of hours? And that's really great. Or I'm trying to figure out how to, get to X, whatever that might be. How do I achieve that? And just rely on the community, that Salesforce Saturday community. So we did that, and we were focused on the learning piece and sharing knowledge. And that's something that we continue to do every single thing, every single group that we touch. So we do that there. And in WIT devs, we wanted to make sure that there was a place for women developers that felt like they could ask questions and get information and share knowledge back and forth and celebrate each other's successes. We have a meeting virtually, mostly once a month. And the only reason I say mostly is because, like, the Dreamforce month, if we're having a live Dreamforce, we have a huge event there typically. So we don't have an actual technical meeting during that month. But again, typically once a month. And we have all different kinds of topics. And then 100 Days of Trailhead. It started with this competition that's happening right now. We'll talk to you a little bit more about the 100 Days of Trailhead competition here in just a moment. But that organization has really been focused on, in WIT devs, we played games and had fun too. And we always add the fun to encourage people, as Jessica said, to participate, to give it a go. It's not necessarily, it's great if you win. I'm not saying that it's not. It's totally awesome if you win. But the whole point is for you to take a step from where you started, to take an incremental step forward. If you started 100 Days of Trailhead and you got 30 days in and something in life totally derailed you that's beyond your control, hey, life happens. Life happens. Maybe, you have a week or two that you're out and you can come back in and get caught up, or just, rejoin and keep going. The whole point is literally to make incremental advancements in your own knowledge, and that can really help you position yourself in your career. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in here in just a moment. So what is 100 Days of Trailhead? Well, it started out with the competition, and it has evolved into so much, including our website and including a YouTube channel. So the competition, from where it started, is two-pronged. The first one is learning. So 100 Days of Learning is all about advancing your knowledge and spending an hour or more every single day. Is it about getting a badge every day? No, it's about spending an hour or more. So you can spend it on certifications. There is a leaderboard for Trailhead. It's not focused on how many badges, it's focused on how many points to, again, focus on deep learning. So there's rules on 100daysoftrailhead.com under the tab for competition. So if you're interested, check it out. It started on January 1, but you can start at any time and jump right in. The other side is app building. So one of the things Jessica says is the highest form of learning is applying that knowledge. So what a better way to learn than to apply the knowledge and build an app.
Right.
So Jessica decided one year, she's like, we really need people to apply their knowledge. How are we going to do this? I was like, and we chatted about it and we figured out that there's this path. So you can do it by yourself, but you can have a team as well, up to 3 people. So check that out. Go on 100daysoflearning.com, 100daysoftrailhead.com. And again, under competition, it has everything. So,
and Mark's just posted the link in the chat for you guys.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. So these are just some testimonials. So within the 100 days, Kathy Waterworth, she spent 1 to 2 hours a day. She completed 91 badges, 3 super badges, 700 badges right on the 100th day, and she achieved her admin cert. So if that's not enough, then we've got Tammy Lau. She did all of the badges, including the super badges. And she said there's no way that she could have done it without the support of the community. That's one thing that's great about this competition is if you're struggling, you can put it out there that you're struggling. People will pile on and encourage you, and you're encouraging other people. It's great. And then she was able to land her first full-time developer position out of her learnings from 100 Days of Trailhead. And then Bhavana Singh, she was one of the 2019 app building winners.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that working on an application takes learning to a brand new level. So those are just some of the stories. And that is just the tip of the iceberg, believe me. All right, so 100 Days of Trailhead. Now this is a screenshot of some of the videos. There's a lot more, there's a lot of topics. So there's topics for admins, there's topics for BAs, there's topics for developers, architects, and anybody in between. There's topics for people that are starting, and there's topics for people that are very, very advanced. So please check it out. The bit.ly is right here. And then on the right-hand side, I understand this picture is way too small for you to see it. It's not meant for that. It's really meant as a way to give you an understanding of what the resource page on 100daysoftrailhead.com looks like. This is just a list of all different kinds of resources and discounts and all kinds of stuff in there. One of the discounts that I want to point out is our discount for Focus on Force. If you do not know what Focus on Force is, it is a bunch of study guides and practice exams to help you clear those certification exams. So if you're interested in admin, we have an admin bundle. If you're interested in developer with the JavaScript cert as well, we have one for developer. We have one for consultant. We have one for architect in there. And there's also actual classes. There's so many different things. Another thing on 100daysoftrailhead.com that we do offer, we offer career coaching. Both of us offer career coaching. We offer speaking. We offer Jessica offers educational consulting.
And I want to point out about this resource list. This resource list came from the very first 100 Days of Code, which eventually became 100 Days of Trailhead. People kept on saying, well, I want to learn how to do X. And so what I had to do, I went to developer boot camp, by the way, that, I didn't add that in. So some of my resources from going to boot camp, I put into this resource list, and it's just grown and grown over the last few years of having 100 Days of Trailhead. So that's where the resource list comes from.
And we always love new resources. If you have resources, absolutely hit us up on the contact page on 100 Days of Trailhead. We would love to help others in that way. Okay, so let's go on to talk a little bit about individual learning. So we've talked a lot about the organizational aspects and everything. So how do we bring it back to the individual? So why is it important to focus on your career? Well, first of all, you can be leaving a lot of your own potential on the table. If you are not focusing on learning and learning new things, then how is anybody going to know how awesome you really are? How are you going to know how awesome you really are and your abilities to push yourself? It's so important to just put yourself outside of your comfort zone to see the possibilities, because believe me, you are more capable than you could ever imagine. And then also leaving money on the table. Who in their right minds would not want at least a little bit more money, right? I don't know of anybody that wouldn't willingly accept more money. So that is a huge piece. And then you could be missing promotions and raises. So promotions, they might be in title. They might be in responsibility, which further accelerates your career. So there's all different kinds of reasons that you want to focus on your career. So now that we've talked about why, let's talk about how. So first of all, study for Salesforce certifications. Certifications on your resume do help you, especially if you have the experience to back them up. So on your resume, when you list your certifications in your descriptions of your experience, if you've got that experience to back it up, it really goes a lot further. Also, Trailhead super badges. Although the super badges are kind of a canned scenario, the thing about it is that it really makes you critically think about how you're going to utilize these skills and apply it. So, I mean, tell me if I'm thinking about this correctly, Jessica. So there's Trailhead for the modules and the trails. And then the next rung up would be the super badges, applying the knowledge in a canned kind of concept. And then the next level up from there would be the app building. Would you say that's correct?
I would say that's correct. I would actually put something in the middle, creating trail mixes for others.
Oh.
Because if you create trail mixes for others, it ensures that you know that skill and you can teach others how to do it. And that's another high level of learning, to teach others. Yes.
And then take time every day to focus on your career development. So do something to advance your career in some way, shape, form, or fashion every single day. Just something, it can be something small, it could be something big, whatever you can fit into your schedule, and do it on a regular basis. Again, that habit building. Get a mentor and a career coach. So you're probably wondering, okay, so what's the difference between a mentor and a career coach? Well, let me tell you, a mentor is somebody, so we all are Salesforce professionals. So a mentor is somebody who can really get down into the technical skills or the cloud products and the Salesforce products and explain how those products and the technology come together. How do those integrations work? How do you create a flow? All those different technical pieces. That is what mentors do. Career coaches focus on the career. So, for example, they might do resume reviews, LinkedIn reviews, help you prep for an interview, figure out if you are not doing so well in interviews, you get to that, and that is where you stop. What happened, And then also figuring out what kind of goals do you have for your career? how are you going to plot to achieve those? And that could be somebody starting, but it also could be somebody mid-career and even all the way into more of an advanced career to, like, say, technical architect or executive. Everybody in between needs to be able to get some coaching to understand how to achieve these goals. And then know your value. It's so important to know your skill value in the market and also your monetary value in the market, so you can make sure that you advocate for yourself. And network. I know there's a lot of introverts probably on this call going, oh my God, no, networking is terrifying. Well, I do understand that. However, the fact of the matter is that you can network too. If you've ever played the social bingo game where you walk around with a bingo card and you're meeting people in the room, this lady right here, she was the one that actually created that. And it's been utilized in the Salesforce ecosystem, I think globally, really. So, and she created it because, believe it or not, she's actually an introvert and she's shy. So she wanted to figure out a way that she could even meet people in the room. And we've had a lot of introverts come and say, hey, I actually met everybody in the room. I normally struggle to meet one person, and now I've met everybody. How did that even happen? And then negotiate. It's so important to know how to negotiate, so important to really figure out those finite points. And money is one piece to negotiate, but that's not the only thing to negotiate. So all these pieces about career, know your value and negotiate. Jessica and I are career coaches. We can help you with that. There's other career coaches out there as well. And then be a mentor. So whatever skills you don't have to be the Yoda of all Salesforce. You don't have to know everything. Go from where you know. At Salesforce Saturday, we always say, if you came in last week and you now know how to log into Trailhead, how to start on a variety of different paths and understand how Trailhead is set up, then you can help the person that is brand new to this whole thing today because you know that much. So that is a form of mentorship right there, just that little piece. And it's so important to mentor because when you are teaching it back, these concepts back to somebody, and they're struggling to understand, and you have to figure out ways to explain it to them, not just one way, but 5 different ways until they get it, that is when you get your deep learning.
Mm-hmm. It makes both of you better.
Yes. And volunteer. Volunteer, you really want to make sure that you volunteer in the community because it will help you network and meet more people and just really accelerate your career. And speaking, find user groups, find, at 100 Days of Trailhead, guess what? We need some speakers. If you're interested, please reach out. And then generally speaking, why would you want to get a career coach? Well, if you don't know what goals you want to achieve, or you're trying to figure out how to get through these different goals in your career path, that might be one. Maybe the job search just feels overwhelming. That's another reason. You don't necessarily know how to position yourself with your skill sets. Maybe you're new and you're like, well, I don't have any experience. So how do I position myself on my resume, my LinkedIn, so forth? I got an interview. So now what? What do I do? How do I prepare? What certifications should I pursue next to achieve what I want in relation to my career goals? And then, like I said, resume and LinkedIn reviews. So there's a couple of myths. So one is, I can do this on my own. Why do I need a career coach? Another is, career coaching is too expensive or too time consuming. So here's the thing. With, I can do this on my own. Well, people make poor career choices and then they're apathetic, they're disengaged, they get depressed, and we spend a majority of time at work. And then in relation to it being expensive, the thing about it is if you make a wrong choice and you have to start over, you spend a lot of money and a lot of time building up those skill sets so you can accelerate your career further. And people spend like 50 years or more at work. So why not start off and project yourself further in your career, because you would have more time in the saddle, so to speak. So it's important to apply what you know. Important to understand, why are you doing the things that you do? Do it with purpose. Figure out how you're going to approach your goals and go for it. When? Today, right now is the time to start. There's no reason to wait until tomorrow or the next day. And most importantly, show your accomplishments, share them, celebrate with others, show people what you can do. So we are horrible about asking for help, just absolutely horrible. But we do need speakers. We need volunteers to help us. You can reach us at 100daysoftrailhead.com/contact. That's our contact page. And we also are looking for sponsors for the 100 Days of Trailhead competition. If you know of any organization that would be interested in sponsoring, we really would love to hear from you.
And when you have an organization and individuals who are using both an internal and external locus of control and are learning and are doing all the things, you get pictures like this. This is from WitDev's, the 100 Days of Trailhead celebration a couple of years ago. And if you notice in the background, it says, do something today that your future self will thank you for. And all of these people did, and it's just amazing. So create an organization, and as individuals, you know, we need to, for ourselves, you know, further our education and further what we're doing so that we can have the best lives that we possibly can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
We really, really appreciate it. And we just want to leave you with this quote, because we didn't get here by ourselves. And we have had so much support inside of the Salesforce ecosystem and also outside with friends and family. So no one who achieves success does so without acknowledging the help of others. The wise and confident acknowledge this help with gratitude. And with that, we just say thank you.
Thank you. And if you want to see more of our shenanigans, 100 Days of Trailhead on YouTube.
And there's all our contact information.
Yes.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to share both your story and journey with us. I've just asked in the group just if anybody's got specific questions for you guys as well. So we'll just give that a couple of minutes to come through. So we've got a question from Claire, and she said, I wondered which boot camp Jessica did.
I did, let me see, Ruby on Rails with Tech Talent South, and that was an 8-week boot camp. And then I did a 4-week boot camp with, the name isn't coming to me right away, but it was a 4-week JavaScript boot camp with Hacker Nest. That's what it was, or Hack Reactor, one of the hacks, something. It had hacker in the name.
I think it's Hack Reactor.
It's Hack Reactor.
We have a local networking group called Hacker Nest, and so that's the reason we get it confused.
Hack Reactor.
But Hack Reactor, I'm gonna shamelessly say this, and Jessica's gonna kill me later, but Hack Reactor is known to be the most challenging JavaScript boot camp across the nation. And she did the Ruby on Rails boot camp and then turned around and immediately, like a crazy woman, did the JavaScript boot camp without even a day of a break.
And there's a second part to that question as well, from Claire. She's asking is it possible to see the apps that are made by the people who have taken part in the 100 Days of Trailhead? So for those that have gone down the app building route, can we?
So we haven't had that ability in the past. And what we're trying to do now is we have put, because we were just encouraging people to start building. Mm-hmm. And now we put some guardrails around it where we're trying to encourage people to really build it, you know, for the App Exchange. Whether it ever ends up on the App Exchange, that's irrelevant. It's more of with the intention of, you know, to solve a business problem. So in the past, we had someone create a fun little game. We've had a variety of other types of apps. There was the one that Bonnie and Bahavana did was more of how to help your community. And I can't remember what the app, I remember it solved a societal issue,
Yeah.
but I don't remember exactly what that was. So in the future, we are hoping to encourage people to build apps and start their apps here. And hopefully, fingers and toes crossed, we'll have people actually publish those on the App Exchange. So then people like yourselves will be able to see those. And we'll definitely take into consideration on a way to even demo the app. But if it's not fully fleshed out, we're hesitant to make any of those public just for the sake of confidentiality,
Right.
and everything. So their ideas cannot be stolen by organizations that could stand it up faster.
Right.
Cool. I don't see any other questions in the chat, but for anyone that's on that, or anyone that feels comfortable just to ask a question outright, just speak up if you wish to. No problem if you don't, but I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Thank you so much for talking today. I really found it fascinating, actually, just thinking about the learning and how to approach that, and thinking about how I'm going to take that back with my team.
Yeah.
One of the things I find really difficult is keeping focus on one certification. So I tend to try and pick something, and like I need to do the identity and access designer to get the system architect, and I really want to do that, but I also want to do the service cloud one, and I also want to do the new B2C architect, and I also want to do, and so have you got any advice for how I might just sort of calm myself down and not go so crazy?
You sound just like me. Like a certification comes out and I'm like, I want to do all the things. Okay, so so let me say this, right? Like, okay, so what is the one that is most relevant to your life and your career right now? And during this 100 days, focus on that one. And this is what I did last year. What I did last year, because same thinking, I focused on one per month during 100 days of Trailhead. So 100 days of Trailhead is basically 3 months and a week. So I was able to get, study for and take a certification, study for and take a certification, study for and take a certification. And then it kind of quelled that need to do all the things within me. Just focus on one thing at a time, right? And focus on the most important thing first. Like I needed to prove to myself that I could take an architect cert and pass it, because that was honestly my fear, that I would never pass an architect cert. So I did it. And that kind of made me really excited to take the next one, right? So just focus on one thing at a time and just make it at the end of the month. That goal is at the end of the month, I'm going to take that certification.
Sign up for your exam today.
Yes.
So you have a deadline.
Yes.
Oh, that's some pressure.
Allow us to keep ourselves accountable.
As well, you can. I agree.
You can always move it.
Yes.
Get it in.
You can always move it, but set it and tell somebody. You don't have to tell the world. We've actually encouraged in WIT devs to set your date and tell the entire WIT devs in the community or on Twitter. Tell the world.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's a good thing. We've got a safe environment at work where we share the same sort of thing with the team, because it's a safe environment. If you're going to fail, you're going to fail. But I that's a good strategy. I think I go by that. Tell people.
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't make you comfortable, publicly doing it, do it with somebody that is a confidant, and say, hey, listen, I'm going to do it on this day. Don't say anything to anybody, but hold me accountable.
And interestingly, we've been each other's accountability partners. And there have been instances where I completely failed. I mean, failed really badly an exam, right? And so it was great, because she was like, okay, back up on the horse. You just took it. Like, you need to give yourself this much time, figure out what you got wrong, look at the different, percentages and study to that. And I was able to pass it. So even if you don't, if you don't feel like an entire community, who can be your accountability partner? And if you can't find anyone else, you see all the places to contact me, and I will say, okay, Susanna, what have you done to study today? Right? I'm there for you. So
absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like it's kin to the gym partner, you know?
Right.
There's plenty of days that I did not want to study, and she literally had to drag me kicking and screaming. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I'd rather watch Doctor Who. Thank you very much, you know? And, but she was like, okay, but we have this exam, and, you know, you said that you were going to do this, and I'm depending on you. And so then there you are. And so, of course, what do? I forego Doctor Who.
Right. So we could have conversations about the next exam and, you know, what we were studying at the time. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Thank you so much, by the way. It's been really, really great. And I think I'm going to have to log on to Trailhead, 100 Days of Trailhead as soon as we finish.
We would love that.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions, just reach out. You know, we're happy to answer questions. And, you know, the biggest thing that I think that I want you to take away is that you have more possibilities that you could ever imagine, and you are more capable than you could ever dream of. You have to move forward with your knees shaking. Just don't allow your voice to quiver. That's it. That's all. Because most people that are quote unquote successful, whatever that really means, because we all define success differently. I can pretty much tell you that I would guess that if people got really, truly honest, that they didn't get there because they didn't do things that they weren't scared that they wouldn't do well with.
Absolutely. Like the way I taught myself to be up on stage was to keep on going on stage. I really, seriously, over and over, because really, when someone says present or do whatever, I want to go and hide, in all honesty. And I just kept on exposing myself. And that's what you have to do, right? Even with exams, you know, presenting at work, just keep on doing it. And you might not ever get to a place where you're super, super comfortable, but you'll get to a place where you can do it, you know, and have confidence in it. So, you know, we believe in you. So yeah, do it.
And please share your successes with us. We want to hear what you have done so we can cheer you on. That's you can you know, tag us and say, hey, this is what I've done.
And Mark, I think Mark's testament to that. He's modestly quiet, but I think he's going through it right now. You know, he's had a whirlwind 21 days, if that. I think with not sure if he wants to share with the team, but I know he's.
He loved his tweets.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm happy to share it. I mean, realistically, so tell you kind of how I got into that, because for a while, I've been in the ecosystem now for about five years, and if you looked at like my Trailhead badges or my certifications, like currently at the moment I don't have a certification to my name, but I've got 5 years experience, and dare I say that could probably pass a certification. I just haven't actually dared take one yet for some different reasons. But I was looking at the back end of last year around what kind of professional goals do I want to achieve. So I set myself 4 goals, ones I thought were reasonably confident would be able to be achieved by the end of the year. And I just started working on them as soon as I set them. And by even before the end of this month, 3 of those 4 goals have been achieved. You know, and those goals were quite simple, to be honest. Those goals were, I wanted to get to ranger status on Trailhead. And within about 5 weeks or so, I'm 2-time ranger. And not because of just badge collecting. That's one thing I would recommend not to do with this stuff. Just don't do badges for the sake of badges. My approach was do the badges that realistically I should have done yonkies ago and just haven't done yet, because you know I've already got the skills to do that. But also prioritize badges in areas that I want to focus on. So I've done those 2 things. Because before Christmas I was sitting at like 40 badges, and now it's like 220, I think 223 badges at the moment.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I'm glad that you said not to blow through the badges, because that is so very important, you know, to really focus on trying to get the most amount of points, trying to really make sure that you learn the content and everything, and you'll naturally rack them up. I mean, it's just a part of the process and everything.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. Yeah, you totally do. So like I've been doing this stuff more in trails rather than just picking it. So odd years ago, okay, I want to learn this subject, I'm going to do the trail on it. And most trails have like 6 or 7 badges in them. So they easily rack up if you decide you're going to focus on a specific subject.
It's had a good, like for Mark, like me and Mark talk because we co-lead this group, but it's had like a good cumulative effect on his goals and his plans, do you know, because we talked at the beginning of the year about goals for the year for the group and personal, and he set them out, and then he 10 days later he's like, oh, I've done 3 of them. But then you're speaking of like you've ticked a few things off the list, you've planned a few more, like it's just rolling in nicely. It's like the discipline or the impact or the realization that, oh, this is quite cool, is benefited you in additional ways, maybe not just this, but I can see it from you.
Yeah, and like I was on the Women in Tech call last week, and I mentioned in the chat there that one of the things you can do when you're kind of looking at how, like, setting yourself your goals and how you achieve your learning, you can start to find the areas that you want to focus on and to kind of potentially move towards in your career in the long run. So I was telling Luke about on the call last week. I mentioned it in the Women in Tech call as well last week, where it's like, you know, I did the modules on Tableau, and I was like, yeah, there's not enough on Tableau here. I want to kind of really deep dive more into Tableau and looking at some really high on the analytics side of things. But I'm also going to be looking at things like non-profit, NPSP as well. So you know, you can find out things that you're passionate about and things you want to develop in as well. And that's really, really good stuff. And I couldn't recommend 100 Days of Trailhead enough. That's kind of why I wanted to dive on this and ask Jessica and Rachel to speak. And this was even before I asked them to speak, even before the program even started. Just seeing like the reviews around it on Twitter and watching the YouTube content. So I would just, yeah, absolutely. Like, I know, Claire, you mentioned it there, you have a look at it afterwards, but it's something I would recommend to everybody, you know, because it's really good stuff. And as we say, it's not about, you know, racking up the badges, but, you know, getting to see your 2-time ranger in about 5 weeks does feel quite good after that. You know,
I know at the very beginning it's very challenging to build that habit, but now that you're on 20 days, does it feel like it's getting at least a little bit easier to, you know, fit it into your day?
It does, yeah. It feels a little bit easier, but I'm also at the point now with it where I'm actually kind of thinking about it rather than just going, okay, I'm just going to do something today. It's kind of taking time of going like, okay, what do I need to focus on? What kind of things do I need to work on to do that? Yeah. So like I mentioned, like the 4 goals I've got, the only one of them that's left on that list. I did say, look, I'll probably have to think of some more now. I've 3 of them ticked off the list. Is this first certification, and you know, so that's the only one that's left on that list. But I'm going to be starting to work on things like super badges,
and as Rachel said,
that kind of stuff as well.
we'll push you to book it, and then. But no, I think it's good, and what I'll quote Mark, but what he said recently as well. Like previously, it was about not having the time, but I think his attitude's shift to making the time, and that's it's a small distinction, but I think it is a difference, right? You know, I think if it's important to you, you'll make the time, or you try to find a way to. Life takes over, and there's a lot of other things going on as well. But
yeah, I think for me, time at the moment is really sort of interesting because I'm doing the Supermums course, and that's quite demanding. And to be honest, the only reason I didn't immediately do 100 Days of Trailhead from the 1st of January was because of the Supermums. But the way I'm looking at it at the moment is that at some point in spring or summer, the restrictions are going to lift and the pandemic maybe will be over. So I don't want to get to that day and it be sunny and my friends are going out and I'm still studying. I don't want to get to that day. So I'm going to study really, really hard right now. But
Okay, so I want you to take a couple of things into consideration. First of all, there's a reason that we made it 100 days and not like 2 days, right? Because at 90 days, we build a habit, and that habit is a habit that we tend to sustain. The second thing is that we get completely what you're saying about restrictions. We get it. So just think about this. If you are doing homework for super moms, that is actually technically something that you could say is part of my 100 days of Trailhead, because they can overlap. It can be part of the same thing. And the third thing I want to point out is, again, we get it about restrictions, but we're only saying an hour a day. And there's a reason we're saying an hour a day, because like, look at all the things that most of us do. Like we have jobs and all of these other things. So we're saying an hour, just fit it in the morning when, as you get that cup of coffee, just fit it in some kind of way. And at the point of actually about 90 days, it becomes a sustainable habit. And interestingly, after that 90 days, if you're not doing it, you begin to miss it and go, man, I'm supposed to be doing this thing on Trailhead every day, right? So that was really the idea. The idea was creating a habit, put it in just somewhere where you would be doing something that, otherwise is less important. And then thirdly, just know that it's only an hour a day. So if it is that sunshiny day, do it first thing in the morning and then go out and enjoy the sun.
Also, take your book out to the park and sit there and read your book for an hour.
Yes.
That's still learning, so I want to learn agile. Well, there's actual, you can use a book or you can use an actual physical book. I know I love books. I like the feel, the smell of them. I like actual paper books. And that's something that I would love to do, is just take it outside, and sit on a park bench or put out a blanket, read my book. And I'm doing something that I enjoy, being outside, and I'm still able to learn. So that's another way. Or take your coffee on your patio or in your garden, and read for an hour. You don't always have to do Trailhead. That is part, yes, but that's not everything.
And I think you can do Trailhead on your phone, right?
Correct.
So the reason I'm saying this is, okay, so you're in a queue, hanging out, like wondering why you're still standing there. You can be on Trailhead and get it out of the way. So
that's a nice plug as well for our next month's session on Trailhead Go. Thank you.
Glad we could tee that up for you.
There you go. Yeah.
And interestingly as well, just in the chat, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Phil just shared a link to a book related to Agile, just mentioned by Rachel, by Inez Garcia, and it's very good, and it's told through the eyes of stories, and it's very focused on people, and it's a really good way to digest each chapter, because each chapter focuses around a different story. So
yeah, absolutely. And just as like another thought on that, one of the other things I was chatting with actually Kristen was on the call about a few days ago, was just about like developer orgs. Those are great assets to use. Could probably put that link in the chat if I can find it as well. But developer orgs are quite a good thing to spend time with, because they're not attached to obviously your main org that you would be using for your work, and you can use it to try things out and to kind of have a go, because sometimes one of the best ways of learning is just to do it, actually get on practically. So for example, you want to learn flows, you do this stuff in Trailhead anyway, they give you like playground orgs for you to do it in. But sometimes as well, you might just want to try something that's not specifically in a particular Trailhead thing. Go, oh, I wonder whether this idea could work in a flow, for example. You could use a developer org to try that stuff out and have a go. And if it doesn't work, you can spend time looking at troubleshooting, like, okay, what did I do? And that's all part of learning as well. If something doesn't work, going, okay, why didn't it work? Identifying those points and trying to address them. But that's another thing I would also encourage. The developer orgs are a really good thing to use as well. I'll put that link in the chat as well, because then that's there. Once I found that. But is there any?
I can maybe help you with that, Mark, if
I think I've got. I was trying to remember whether it's .org or .com. That's what I was trying to do. So, but yeah, it's in there. And some of the things you do on Trailhead, they give you like different types of developer orgs. So if you want to say learn about how they do like Salesforce maps, which is relatively new, there's trails on that. Same with Tableau, same with MPSP, Agile. There's trails on there about Agile. Just about anything that you can think of, there's trails on there. Like one of the trails I did before Christmas, just kind of gearing up into the new year, was the public speaking ones. We'll kind of tap on that at a later point, but yeah, it's all great stuff. Couldn't recommend it enough. Okay, so I'm just conscious on time at the moment, but I just want to say, was there any questions that anybody had like burning that they wanted to chip in with quickly before we move on to our last couple of bits?
I'm just monitoring the chat. I don't see anything else through.
No, that's fine. Okay, so since I need go, okay, that's fine. No worries. Well, thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
Alistair, and hope to see you another one soon. Yeah, so I'll quickly share my talk about kind of one of the things that we've got going on, which is kind of, I guess, inspired a little bit by 100 days of Trailhead as well. So Luke and I were chatting about something that we could maybe do as a community group this year, and what we thought we'd try and do. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So there's no pressure at all whatsoever. But we thought we would set up an event on Top Trailblazers, which the 100 Days Trailhead event is based on. And that would be for our group this year, just like a little thing, which is the same, exactly the same as what 100 Days of Trailhead works on. And it's just a Trailhead Community Challenge, as what we've called it. And it's the first time we're doing it this year. And we'll see how that goes. So
I've got the link, Mark. If you want me to post it, or are you going to share screen?
Great. Yeah, I'm going to share screen, but if you want to post the link in the chat as well, that would be great. I'm just going to sort on my screen so it works a bit better. So there you go. And great. So this is like this is the Top Trailblazers website. If you go to the 100 Days of Trail and you look at the guidance onto how to get involved, it'll talk to you about this, because you need to be on the Top Trailblazers website in order to do it. But basically, we thought we'd try a Trailhead Community Challenge this year as well. The good news with that is, if you're doing 100 Days of Trailhead, this would feed into that as well, because it encompasses everything across the community as well. So how you would get involved in this, you'd go to the events page on here, and there's a link that's coming in the chat once you've signed up as well. And for us, it's the Northeast Group Trailhead Community Challenge. At the moment, there's only 3 people in there. And all you need to do is go to that page, scroll down, and click on join. And that's as simple as it gets for that. You'll get a pop-up to ask you to join, or in my case, it's saying here, leave. If anybody wants to take part in that and you get a little bit stuck, do feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. And that's really the thing we want to talk about there. Just to close off, we do have some announcements. So I'm going to just shift across to my PowerPoint. And so the announcements that we've got is just a few ones which we want to quickly go through just before we wrap up. First one is idea prioritization. So if you haven't done idea prioritization before, what it is that you get a load of ideas listed on the idea exchange, and certain ideas will be put into a pool for voting as to which ones you want to see prioritized going forward, put into the product roadmap. This year, prioritization has started. We've got ones going up until the 1st of February. There's some really interesting ones in there, some ones around nonprofit particularly, that's in there, and there's quite a few different interesting ones in there. So feel free to go onto the link that we're going to be posting to the chat for that, vote up your ideas, which ones you want to see out of those that's listed being prioritized. And that is a great thing that you can do to help actually help to inform the roadmap and to have your voice heard. So that's a really great thing. The next one as well is the one that I came across today, and this was just part of at the last minute. But for anyone who is interested in Pardot, which did come up in the first activity, Pardot are offering the chance to win one of 23 spaces on their admin course. There's the link is shown on there, and I'll be also putting it into the chat. If you are interested in that, all you need to do is go to that link and register your details with them, and if you might actually win that, and you might actually get into that. Pardot is an interesting tool, and that is delivered by Pareto PI, which is a good group around Pardot as well. They're very prominent. Next one we've got a little bit around this, is if you're in the non-profit sector or you're interested in the non-profit sector, then there's a conference happening next week, which is Non-Profit Dreaming. So if you haven't signed up for that and you are interested in doing it, you can sign up live. Both Jessica and myself are doing presentations at that session as well, which are going to be really good. So I would really encourage people to come along and join us. So it's going to be great. There's a load of great speakers on there, not just ourselves. You've got the likes of Ines Garcia as well speaking. And I'm really looking forward to Ines' session as well. And you can see all of the sessions on the Non-Profit Dreaming website. Last couple of things we want to mention is we've actually got our first 4 events of the year booked in, and we will be revealing them on the Trailblazer community groups at some point soon. But next month we're doing Learning on the Go with Trailhead Go. So that's going to be quite an interesting session. It's going to be basically geared around showing you how to actually access Trailhead Go, and kind of showing you what you can do with the mobile app. So how that's going to work at the moment for our current thing is we'll have probably 2 breakout groups, one for Android, one for iOS, and see how that works. And so if you're interested in that, please do sign up. In March, we've got our your next best action with Einstein, which is now Tableau CRM, and that's going to be delivered by Matt Byrne from Financial Force. And then in April, we've got a really interesting session, I think, with Johan Furman from Glebe Consulting, which is best practices admins can learn from developers. So we've got those 3 other events coming up, and they'll be fantastic. And as I say, our next one is Learning on the Go with Trailhead Go, and should be a really good session. We've been working on that for a little while now, so love to have you come and join us for that. Other than that, just wanted to say a big thank you for coming along, and Luke and I will stay on the call for a little bit if anyone wants to hang out and chat after this. But as far as the official portion of the event, that's all that we have.